him. So we put Tisha and John in the back seat of our station wagon, covered him up with a blanket, and told him, "Don't you peek." Okay, I'm going to try this again. I've been talking to you about all the places that we moved, the trips that we made, and had to move our children out of school. And wait, I'm going to move this. Sorry. So I didn't get to share with you. I just shared with you all the different places that we moved to and the different places where Jim started churches, and it just exploded up in the Midwest. We used to call AFCM Upper Midwest Faith Ministries because it was all made up of Upper Midwest pastors. When we moved back to Tulsa, 1981, we started, other people started joining AFCM, so we couldn't use that name. We had to change it to Association of Faith Churches and Ministries. So anyway, that's how come it got to be AFCM. Anyway, and we turned the church in Wilmer over to a pastor and moved back to Tulsa, 1981. Wait a minute, I'm ahead of myself because I was going to share with you about our travels overseas, and we started up our travels overseas when we were in Wilmer. Our first trip overseas Jim's was to Finland. And I'm sure you've heard the story on Jim's tapes about how these people came to Tulsa to Brother Hagin and said they were told by God to come get this message of faith and bring it back to the country of Finland. And Billy Brim heard the story. She was working for Brother Hagin, so she brought him up to Wilmer. And they were in one of our meetings we had in the Holiday Inn. And at the end of the meetings, he said to Jim, "I believe you're the one that's supposed to come to Finland and bring the message of faith." So Jim took Harlan Guffian with him and started planning for his trip to Finland, which was the first of many. And that's where we met Berith Hainan, and she was Jim's interpreter. And she did not believe what Jim was teaching. Of course, nobody did believe the word. So she wanted to change it when she interpreted, but she didn't. She told us she didn't. Anyway, she couldn't have, because a revival broke out in that country. And then into Russia, Jim and I met a man in Finland who traveled into Russia and brought things into the underground church, and he asked us to go with. And I'm shaking my head because crazy people that we were, we brought our Annette and Desiree with us into Russia, and that they weren't very old. I mean, you know, Desi probably was barely a teenager, and Annette younger than her. So they went with us into Russia, and of course they're not sorry for getting the privilege to go. We brought ink for the underground church to print and money so they could buy a car so he wouldn't have to travel by foot. The underground pastor, he'd been in prison more than once, and so had his wife. She, I think, didn't have a foot, had her foot cut off in prison. Just cruel, cruel things. Anyway, let's see, from Finland into Russia, then into the Ukraine. Scandinavia. I don't know how we met those folks, but anyway, we started going into Scandinavia and helping churches there. It just exploded up in that part of the world, which was exciting. Then from there, I know what I ended up telling you about our blue van that we traveled around with in the States. And then back to Wilmer I'm getting all jumbled up here, but it's not easy to do these tapes. Not for me, anyway. It just seems like Jim gets nothing said. Well, I shouldn't say that. And his 10 minutes are up. And it seems like it takes so long for my 10 minutes to get there. Anyway, by now we had 4 children, because we picked up Jonathan on our way to Rama. So when we got back to Wilmer, then we got Daniel. So that was our 5th. I remember going to pick up Danny. John and Tisha had measles or chickenpox. And so we told him, you can go pick up this baby and we can take him into our house and take care of him. But they can't see what you look like, because if they see your face is all full of these spots, they probably won't let us take him. So we put Tisha and John in the back seat of our station wagon, covered them up with a blanket, and told them, don't you peek. And we went to pick up Danny. Anyway, we've had some exciting adventures, taking the word of faith to the world. We started having meetings with our ministers because we had to keep in touch with them, and they were starting to have problems with their accounting and stuff like that. So we had to get an accountant and a lawyer and get help from these people to help them. God is so good, bringing in the money for the trips, bringing in the money to give, bringing in money to help people all over the world. And we did. God is so good. I guess I will stop there, because if I start something else, it's going to be a whole different subject. Love you guys. Thanks for praying for me. I need your prayers. And be blessed.